Why does the periodic table stop where it does, instead of running smoothly onto elements 300, 500, or even 1000? In the energy filament theory, the universe is not saying I am lazy, I will just stop here. It is saying only certain texture structures in the energy sea can stay stable for long. And beyond a point the geometry and rhythms break. An atom in this picture is not a stack of balls but a whole texture machine made of a nucleus plus electron orbits that must both make sense at the same time. Inside the nucleus, each proton is 3 tiny filament rings locked by 3 tension bridges. And each extra proton that you add brings one more outward pushing straight texture and one more dose of like charged repulsion. It's like tying another rope from the tent canvas out to a stake and pulling it away from the center. Neutrons do not push electrically, but their internal spiral textures let them act like pattern tuners. They help all those outward ropes and inner swirls find a combined shape that costs the least tension. So the canvas of the nucleus can sit in a relatively relaxed pose instead of tearing. As you march up the table and keep adding protons, the straight textures that want to push apart and the spiral textures that want to bind together start to fight more violently. There comes a point where no number of neutrons can fully comb the pattern smooth. The tension distribution becomes extreme. The static and dynamic pieces argue over where the surface should sit, and the nucleus cannot find any truly comfortable posture. At that stage, it begins to leak energy, shake and spit out fragments. It's like an oversized tent that is so stretched that if you tighten one rope, another side sags. If you fix that one, the first corner collapses. The larger the nucleus, the harder it is to align all those internal ropes and swirls. The harder it is to align them, the narrower the stability window, until eventually, the window closes. Super heavy nuclei can only flash into existence for moments before they crumble. That is the first ceiling. The second ceiling is drawn by the electrons. A bigger nucleus carries a more complex rhythm, because all those internal bridges and spins and phases stack into a richer spiral texture that reaches out into the surrounding energy sea. Electrons can only occupy orbits where their own circulation rhythms can lock cleanly to that nuclear rhythm. Every allowed orbit must sit where two conditions balance. The inward straight texture slope from the electric field must be strong enough to hold the electrons from drifting away. The sideways spiral texture slope from spin, magnetic moment and phase must be smooth enough that the electrons can run loops without tripping. In other words, the orbit has to be the track where falling inward and circling around ties into one easiest path. For small and medium atoms, there are several such tracks, spaced in a way that gives the shells and subshells you see in chemistry diagrams. Electrons can settle into patterns that are robust against small disturbances. As the nucleus grows heavier, its spiral texture becomes layered, knotted and slightly uneven. The number of clean, phase-matched orbits shrinks, while the remaining levels squeeze closer together and start to overlap. Some orbits that look fine in a simple equation or a tidy drawing stubbornly refuse to exist in the real texture field. The moment you try to populate them, they are pierced by other patterns, mixed away or turned into channels for rapid decay. In very heavy atoms, you can end up with a nucleus that is barely holding its pose and an electron clouds that cannot find a set of long-lived, low-tension pads around it. Electrons jump and fall. The energy level structure buckles, and their agitation feeds back on the already stressed nucleus. What we label unstable element or half-life of milliseconds is really the combined nucleus electron texture machine is failing to find any shared configuration and is not constantly trying to rearrange itself into something simpler. So when you ask why are there only this many elements, the answer is not because that is all the universe ever tried to make. It is because nuclear texture alignment and electron nucleus rhythm matching both have upper limits that get rapidly worse with scale. Once those two constraints are both tight, atoms above a certain complexity cannot find any joint pattern that is truly low in tension and low in fuss. They can be created in collisions or reactors, but they cannot sit calmly, so they fall apart into lighter, more comfortable combinations. Seen this way, The periodic table is not a random catalog we happen to discover. It is the full list of long-term solutions that the energy sea allows under today's cosmic tension. The complete set of filament structures that can keep their shape instead of tearing themselves back down. Tap follow, share it on New Physics, Clear Universe.